He entered with a dragon by his side. The alien principal finally learned what friendship means. The morning started like any other at the Galactic Academy of Advanced Species. Principal Zorthak stood in his office on the top floor, reviewing student files on his holographic display. He was a tall crystalline being, his body made of clear purple crystal that sparkled in the light. For 300 years, he had run this school with perfect order and strict rules. Everything changed when the transport ship landed. The security alarm buzzed softly. Zorthak looked at his screen and saw a small Earth vessel touching down on the landing pad. Earth was the newest planet to join the Galactic Council. Their students were rare at the Academy, but what happened next made every alarm in the building go off at once. A young human stepped out of the ship. He looked about 20 years old with dark hair and a friendly smile. He wore simple Earth clothes, jeans, and a jacket. That was normal enough. What was not normal was the creature beside him. A dragon walked next to the human. It was massive, with scales that shimmered red and gold in the sunlight. Its wings were folded against its back, each one large enough to cover a small house. The dragon's eyes were intelligent and calm. It moved with grace despite its size, staying close to the human like a loyal companion. Zorthak's crystal body flashed with shock. Dragons were supposed to be myths from Earth stories. They were not supposed to be real. They were certainly not supposed to walk through his academy's front entrance. Students in the courtyard scattered in fear. A group of Vrelians dropped their study tablets and ran. 2 Aquarian students dove into the decorative fountain. Even the security guards backed away, their hands hovering over their stun weapons. The human seemed completely unbothered by the panic. He walked toward the main building with confident steps, the dragon matching his pace perfectly. They reached the registration desk where a nervous Vrelian clerk sat frozen, her tentacles trembling. "Good morning," the human said cheerfully. "My name is Marcus Chen. I'm the new exchange student from Earth. This is Ember. We're here to register for the semester." The application didn't have a box for bringing your best friend who happens to be a dragon. Ember and I have been together since we were kids. We're kind of a package deal. He strode across the marble floor, his crystal body flashing colors that showed his extreme displeasure. He had dealt with many unusual situations in 3 centuries, but this was beyond anything in his experience. "This is completely unacceptable," Zorthak announced, his voice echoing through the hall. "The Academy has very strict protocols. All companions must be registered 30 days in advance. Size restrictions clearly state." "Principal Zorthak," she said calmly, "I want you to know that I am completely house-trained." Marcus burst out laughing. It was a genuine, joyful sound that echoed off the high ceiling. Ember's golden eyes sparkled with amusement, and a small puff of smoke escaped her nostrils as she tried not to laugh too. Zorthak felt something he had not experienced in decades: complete confusion. He did not know how to respond to a dragon making jokes. His protocols had no section for this. "This is not a laughing matter," he said, trying to regain control. "There are safety concerns. There are regulations about creature sizes. There are. She's as intelligent as anyone in this room, probably more intelligent than most of us, honestly. I can provide my test results if needed." Nothing in his 300 years had prepared him for this moment. I need to review this situation," he finally said. "There must be committee meetings, safety assessments, structural evaluation to ensure the dormitories can handle. We've had lots of practice." A few brave students were starting to edge closer, curiosity overcoming their fear. One small Krillian student, her crystal body shimmering with nervousness, approached slowly. Is she really friendly?" the student asked Marcus in a tiny voice. "The friendliest," Marcus assured her. "Would you like to meet her properly?" Zorthak watched from his office window as more students gathered around. The human and his dragon were changing everything just by being themselves. And somehow, despite all his experience and all his protocols, the principal had no idea what to do about it. This was going to be an interesting semester indeed. The first week brought nothing but headaches for Principal Zorthak. Every rule he tried to enforce, Marcus and Ember found a way around it. But they never broke the rules, they just followed them in unexpected ways. On the second day, Zorthak announced that Ember could not attend classes. The classrooms were too small and her presence would disturb other students. Marcus listened politely, then pulled out his data tablet. "Principal, I was reading the Academy Charter last night. Section 4, Paragraph 7 says that education must be provided to all sentient beings regardless of physical form. Ember is sentient. She passed the entrance exams. Doesn't she have the right to attend classes?" The human was technically correct. The charter did say that. It was written centuries ago to ensure that species of all shapes and sizes could learn together. "The spirit of that rule," Zorthak began. "The spirit of that rule is inclusion," Marcus said gently. "That's what Ember wants, just a chance to learn like everyone else." And to everyone's surprise, she participated thoughtfully in discussions. In advanced physics, she offered an insight about gravitational waves that made Professor Thek stop mid-lecture and revise his entire presentation. In galactic history, she shared stories from Earth's ancient past that helped students understand cultural development patterns. The next problem came on the fourth day. The food service director contacted Zorthak in a panic. "Principal, the dragon's dietary needs. We don't know what dragons eat. What if she requires live prey? What if she needs rare minerals? We're not equipped." Ember explained that she could help with controlled burning, a farming technique where small fires clear old plants and enrich the soil. The Chlorian botanists were terrified at first. Their plant-based bodies feared fire naturally, but Ember was patient. She demonstrated perfect control, breathing tiny flames exactly where needed. Within 3 days, the crop yield improved by 15%. The Chlorians began requesting her help regularly. Zorthak watched all of this from his office monitors. He felt his carefully ordered world slipping away, but he noticed something else too, something he had not seen in many years. Students were gathering together. Every evening Marcus sat in the main common area. He never studied alone. Ember would settle nearby, her large body creating a warm, protected space. Other students began joining them, first 1 or 2 brave ones, then more and more each night. Marcus had an easy way with people. He asked questions about their home worlds, their families, their dreams. He listened more than he talked. When someone struggled with homework, he helped them think through problems rather than giving answers. One evening, Zorthak noticed a young Krillian student sitting alone, crying. Her name was Trillia, and this was her first time away from her colony world. Krillians were social creatures who lived in large family groups. Being alone was painful for them. Marcus saw her distress. He walked over quietly and sat down beside her, keeping a respectful distance. "First time away from home?" he asked gently. Trillia nodded, her crystalline tears catching the light. "My people are not meant to be alone. I miss my colony so much. I miss my family. Everything here is so different and strange. You should come join us." She positioned herself like a living fireplace, providing warmth while they studied. There were Aquarians and Lithians, Vrelians and Gravitons, all working together. Marcus moved between groups, offering encouragement. When a Vrelian student got frustrated with a math problem, he suggested looking at it from a different angle. When 2 students disagreed about a history question, he helped them see both perspectives. Zorthak observed from his monitoring station. He had run this academy for 300 years. He had created systems and protocols designed to be fair to everyone. But watching this human create community with nothing but kindness and hot chocolate, he felt something strange. He felt like he had been doing everything wrong. The students were not just studying together. They were laughing. They were sharing stories about their worlds. A graviton was teaching a Chlorian a song from her home planet. An Aquarian was showing others pictures of his family. This was not in any protocol. Zorthak had never thought to create rules about friendship. He had focused on fairness, on equal treatment, on maintaining order. He realized now that somewhere along the way, he had forgotten about connection. By the end of the first week, something incredible had happened. Students who had been strangers were now friends. They ate meals together. They helped each other with assignments. They gathered in the common areas not because they had to, but because they wanted to. And at the center of it all was a human and his dragon, creating warmth wherever they went. Zorthak sat in his office late one night, reviewing the week's reports. By every official measure, it had been chaotic. Rules had been bent. Protocols had been challenged. His carefully structured environment had been disrupted. But also by every measure, the students were happier than he had ever seen them. He watched his monitors as Marcus and Ember said good night to the last few students in the common area. The human put a gentle hand on Ember's neck and the dragon hummed with contentment. "Ready for bed?" Marcus asked his friend. "Ready," Ember replied. "Today was a good day." He had decisions to make. He could enforce his rules more strictly, restore order and return things to how they had always been. Or he could admit that maybe, just maybe, order was not the same thing as good. For the first time in 300 years, the principal did not know what to do. And somehow, that uncertainty felt like the beginning of something important. The crisis began on a quiet Tuesday morning. Professor Thrindle, the most difficult teacher at the academy, had given his celestial navigation exam. When the results came back, 80% of the students had failed. Zorthak expected the usual response. Students would complain. Parents would send angry messages. There would be demands for a retake and accusations that the test was unfair. He prepared himself for meetings and arguments, but none of that happened. Instead, something different began in the largest common room. Zorthak noticed unusual activity on his monitors. Students were gathering in large groups. He expected to find them angry or upset. What he found instead surprised him completely. Marcus had organized study sessions, but these were not like any study sessions Zorthak had seen before. Students sat in mixed groups, different species working together. Marcus moved between them, not giving answers, but asking questions. "What if you thought about it from your species' unique way of seeing things?" he suggested to a graviton student who looked frustrated. "Your people navigate by feeling how space bends and curves. How would that change how you solve this problem?" "But if I feel it instead?" Humans once sailed across Earth's oceans using only stars they could barely see. They crossed distances without knowing what waited ahead. They survived by trusting their instincts and helping each other. Every species here has done the same thing on their own worlds. The math in this test is just another language for what you already know how to do. What part confuses you the most? They celebrated when someone finally understood a difficult concept. They encouraged each other when frustration came. This was not just studying. This was something deeper, something Zorthak had forgotten could exist in an academic setting. A Lithian student looked at Marcus with curiosity. "Why do you help us so much? We are competing for class rankings. We come from different worlds. Some of our species have been enemies in the past." "Isn't that enough reason?" He glanced at Ember, who rested nearby. "Ember taught me something important when we were young. Real strength isn't about standing alone and being the best. It's about knowing when to lift others up. And Marcus taught me that the most powerful fire is not the one that destroys. It is the one that brings light to others and keeps them warm." Zorthak felt something shift inside his crystal body. For 300 years, he had created rules to make things fair. He had designed systems to ensure no student got special treatment. He had built an environment where everyone competed equally. But watching this human and his dragon, he realized something troubling. His rules had created fairness, yes, but they had also created loneliness. Students studied alone in their rooms. They saw each other as competitors rather than companions. They followed protocols but had forgotten how to connect. The next day, Zorthak did something unusual. He left his office during lunch and walked through the cafeteria. Normally, students sat separated by species, Aquarians with Aquarians, Vrelians with Vrelians, each group keeping to themselves. But now, the tables were mixed. A graviton sat between two Chlorians, laughing at a joke. A group of Krillians were teaching a Lithian student a game from their home world. At the center table, Marcus and Ember sat surrounded by students from a dozen different planets. Zorthak observed quietly. Marcus was not doing anything special. He was just being present. He asked a student about her family. He complimented another on his test score. He listened when someone talked about missing home. Simple things, small kindnesses, but those small kindnesses had transformed the entire academy. That evening, Zorthak watched the second study session. More students had come. The common room was packed. Marcus had organized them into teaching pairs, students who understood a concept, helping those who struggled. Ember moved between groups, offering gentle encouragement. A particularly shy Aquarian student named Rilex had been struggling all semester. He sat alone in a corner, looking at his failed test with despair. Zorthak had noticed this student before but had never spoken to him. It was not his role to get involved with individual students. Marcus noticed Rilex too. He walked over and sat down quietly. "Rough test." Then he said something that made Zorthak stop and truly listen. "Being smart is not just about getting perfect scores," Marcus said gently. "I've seen you help your roommate when he was sick. I've seen you fix the water system in the dormitory when it broke. I've seen you share your food with students who forgot their meal cards. That is intelligence too. That is being smart in ways that matter. You just need to find yours in this subject, and you don't have to find it alone. That's what friends are for." Zorthak returned to his office. He sat in his chair and looked at the 300 years of reports and files surrounding him. He had managed thousands of students. He had created efficient systems. He had maintained order and fairness. But he could not remember the last time he had asked a student about their family. He could not remember when he last noticed someone struggling and sat with them. He could not remember when he had last seen students as people rather than data in his files. The human had been at the academy for only 2 weeks. In that short time, he had created more connection and community than Zorthak had built in 3 centuries. The principal's crystal body dimmed with a feeling he rarely experienced: doubt. Had he been doing everything wrong? Had his focus on rules and order actually prevented the very thing education was supposed to create? He looked at his monitor one more time. Marcus was saying goodnight to students, each one receiving a genuine smile and kind word. Ember touched her nose gently to each student's head in a gesture of affection, and the students were happy, truly, deeply happy. Zorthak turned off his monitor and sat in the darkness of his office. Tomorrow, he would need to make a choice. Continue as he always had, or learn something new from the most unlikely teachers, a young human and his dragon friend. The emergency sirens woke everyone at 3 in the morning. The loud, piercing sound echoed through every hallway and dormitory. Students stumbled from their beds in confusion and fear. Zorthak rushed to the main control center. His worst nightmare was unfolding on the screens before him. A massive solar flare from the nearby star had struck the Academy's protective shields. The generators that powered the shields were damaged. Sparks flew from control panels as engineers worked frantically. "Status report," Zorthak demanded. The chief engineer, a Lithian named Krevik, looked up with fear in his eyes. The main shield generators are failing. We have backup systems, but they are not strong enough. We have 6 hours before radiation levels become dangerous, maybe less. The launches take time, even working at maximum speed. Krevik's voice trailed off. Zorthak's crystal body flashed with horror. The reality was clear and terrible. Some dormitory sections had weaker shielding than others. He would have to choose which students to evacuate first. He would have to decide who got protection and who faced danger. His hands shook as he pulled up the dormitory maps. How could he make such a choice? Every protocol he had ever created was designed to treat students equally. Now he had to choose who to save first. His communicator suddenly crackled with an unauthorized transmission. "Principal Zorthak, this is Marcus Chen. Please listen to me. Don't make those terrible calculations. We have another option. It is pure concentrated energy. If she channels it through the generator conduits, she can strengthen the shields. She can buy us the time we need to evacuate everyone safely. The heat from dragon fire would destroy the generator systems completely. We would lose everything. Principal Zorthak, you have spent 300 years protecting students with rules and systems. Please, let me protect them in my own way. Let me use my fire to help instead of harm." On the screens, he could see something that made his crystal body freeze. Marcus and Ember were not alone. Dozens of students had left their dormitories. They were organizing themselves throughout the academy. The Aquarian students had gone to the cooling systems. Their water-based bodies could regulate temperature better than any machine. The Lithian engineering students were running calculations and rerouting power. The young Krillian named Trillia was coordinating communications across all dormitory sections. She moved between groups, making sure everyone knew what was happening, and Marcus was at the center of it all. He moved through the crowds of students, not giving orders but connecting everyone's efforts together. He listened to ideas. He helped coordinate. He encouraged those who were afraid. "This is against every regulation," Zorthak whispered to himself. "Students should not be involved in emergency operations. This violates every safety protocol." "Sir, I understand that rules exist to protect people. You created good rules for good reasons. But right now, people want to protect each other. Sometimes you need to trust that connection is stronger than any protocol." 300 years of training told him to refuse. Every rule he had ever written told him this was wrong. Students should be kept safe in their dormitories. Only trained professionals should handle emergencies. But he looked at the monitors again. He saw students working together with a coordination he had never witnessed before. He saw them caring about each other, helping each other, trusting each other. He saw what he had been too blind to see for 3 centuries. Community was stronger than protocol. "Do it," Zorthak said quietly. Then louder, "Do it. All students coordinate with Marcus Chen. Engineers prepare to integrate dragon fire energy into the shield generators." Students pressed against walls to let her pass, but they were not running in fear anymore. They were cheering her on. She reached the primary generator room. The machinery was massive, with conduits as thick as tree trunks. Ember positioned herself carefully. Her claws interfaced with the metal conduits. She closed her ancient eyes and took a deep breath. Then she began to release her fire. But it was not the wild, destructive flame from legends. It was controlled, precise, and beautiful. Golden-red energy flowed from her into the generators like a river of light. The temperature readings spiked on every monitor, but Ember held perfectly steady. Marcus stood beside her, one hand resting on her scales. He watched the readout screens and called adjustments. 0.3 degrees cooler on the left side, Ember. Perfect. Now increase flow by 5% on the right conduit. The Lithians managed power distribution. The Gravitons monitored structural stability. Every species used their unique abilities to help. Trillia's voice came over the communication system, calm and clear. Dormitory Section A is secure, moving to Section B. Everyone is working together perfectly. It is working. The dragon's energy is perfectly controlled. I have never seen anything like it. You are doing amazing, Ember. Everyone is safe because of you. Finally, the last transport ship departed. The solar flare passed. Normal power systems came back online. Ember released her connection to the generators and collapsed, exhausted but smiling. Students erupted in cheers throughout the academy. They had faced a crisis together and won, not because of rules or protocols, but because they cared about each other enough to work as one. Zorthak left the control center and walked to the generator room. He found Marcus sitting beside Ember, who was resting but content. Other students surrounded them, bringing water and expressing gratitude. The principal approached slowly. For the first time in 300 years, he truly did not know what to say. The morning after the crisis, Zorthak called Marcus and Ember to his office. He had prepared a speech about unauthorized actions during emergencies. He had planned to explain why rules existed and why students should not involve themselves in dangerous situations. But when they arrived, all those prepared words disappeared. Marcus looked tired but happy. Ember moved slowly, still recovering from her tremendous effort. They sat down across from the principal's desk, waiting patiently. Zorthak looked at them both. Then he asked a question he had never thought to ask before. "How did you know?" His voice was quiet. "How did you know the students would help each other? How did you know they would risk themselves for one another? They help each other when things get hard." "Principal Zorthak, may I ask you something personal? In 300 years of running this academy, how many students do you know by name?" He knew species requirements, dietary needs, and educational statistics. But names, individual students and their personal stories. He realized with growing shame that he could not name a single student currently enrolled. Not one. "I maintain professional distance," he said slowly. "It ensures fair and impartial administration. I treat all students equally. Your rules are fair and your protocols are efficient. But somewhere along the way, you forgot to build connections between people. I thought fairness meant treating everyone the same. It means being there not because a protocol requires it, but because you choose to care about them. But yesterday we saved lives because students chose to care about each other. Both things matter. Maybe they work better together. I do not know how to do what you do. I do not know how to be a friend. I have been an administrator for so long. You sit with them sometimes, not as their principal, but as someone who genuinely cares about their happiness. They just keep showing up and caring." Zorthak felt nervous. His crystal body flickered with colors that showed his discomfort, but he stepped forward anyway. "I realize something," he began, his voice uncertain in a way it had never been. "I have been your principal for this entire semester, and I do not know any of your names. I would like to learn them if you would permit me to. I am from Krillian Colony Theta. I study xenobiology because I want to understand different life forms." A graviton introduced himself as Xenok and explained his love of stellar cartography. An Aquarian named Rilex shyly shared that he wanted to be an engineer. A Lithian student talked about her family back home. Zorthak listened to each one. He asked questions. He showed genuine interest in their dreams and their lives. It was awkward and halting, nothing like his usual efficient administration. But it felt more important than anything he had done in years. Marcus and Ember watched from the side of the room. Ember hummed with contentment. "He is learning," she said quietly. "He has a good heart," Marcus replied. "He just forgot how to use it, but he is remembering now." The regulations remained. Zorthak still believed in structure and fairness. But now the rules had flexibility. They bent around people's needs. They served the community rather than controlling it. Zorthak started holding office hours, but not for official business. Students could visit just to talk. He learned about their families, their struggles, their victories. He celebrated their successes and supported them through failures. The academy transformed. Students still competed academically, but they also collaborated and helped each other. They formed study groups and friendships that crossed species boundaries. The cafeteria became a place of mixed tables and shared laughter. Graduation day arrived at the end of the semester. Zorthak stood at the podium before the assembled students, faculty, and families. His crystal body glowed with warm colors. "This semester," he began, "a human entered our academy with a dragon by his side. I thought they came here to learn from us. I thought I would teach them about galactic standards and academic excellence. They taught me that the greatest strength in our galaxy is not found in perfect protocols or efficient systems. It is found in the simple choice to care about each other, to know each other's names, to be friends." Marcus and Ember showed an old principle what friendship truly means. They showed me that rules should serve people, not the other way around. They reminded me that every student is not just a file or a number, but a person with dreams and fears and infinite worth. Take with you not just the knowledge you learned, but the friendships you built. Remember that connection is stronger than any technology, and compassion is wiser than any protocol. There were tears and hugs and promises to stay in touch. Trillia embraced Marcus tightly. "Will you visit us?" she asked. "Will you come back? Friends do not let distance or different worlds keep them apart. Thank you for what you gave me. I finally understand that caring for their hearts is the most important part. Not student files or enrollment numbers, but people whose names he knew, whose stories he had learned, whose lives mattered to him deeply. The Academy's protocols remained strong. But now they served something greater, a community built not just on academic excellence, but on the revolutionary choice to care about each other. And it had all begun when a young human entered with a dragon by his side, teaching an ancient principle, the simple truth that friendship is the greatest lesson of all.